What's up YouTube? Back in today with another video, and on today's video we're going to be doing some maintenance work on the XT Falcon. I'm also going to be doing an air intake upgrade somewhat, so got a long weekend, a little bit of time up my sleeve, so I'm going to try and knock this out. I am just coming off a stint of bronchitis, so hopefully most of what I say will make sense. If not, then you know, it is what it is. Anyway, so let's go get stuck into today's job. So we're going to be changing out the spark plugs for some new ones. I've done the coils on this car already, and it's got like somewhat of an intermittent miss that it's had for a little while now, so I'm thinking I'll do spark plugs because I haven't touched them yet. Hopefully those new ones will actually fix the issue. If not, at the very least I'll know that the plugs are good. So I've got some new plugs that are going to go in. In terms of the air intake upgrade, I'm going to be fitting up a spare XR8 airbox that I had laying around, which is a different style of airbox. I don't think it's going to change all that much, but I do have a high flow air filter for it, so it saves me having to buy a high flow air filter for the current airbox. I can just swap all this stuff out and make it work. So yeah, that's enough talk for now. Let's go get stuck into it. Alright, so spark plugs live under this coil cover here. To get to that, we're going to have to remove the intake tract. You can loosen it from there, lift this entire piece off, or loosen it from there, then take that piece off. I find it easier to just remove the two 10mm bolts, undo the clips for the top of the airbox, lift the entire thing off in one go, and then we've got a whole range of 5mm cap screw type things that hold the coil cover down that we need to remove. Stay. So once you've got the intake pipe removed, we're going to have to remove this coil cover. We've got all these bolts to remove. If you're smart, you won't reinstall that bolt right at the back there, because it is an absolute pain in the ass to get to. So this is interesting. These are the plugs that I've just pulled out, and that part number is actually a turbo specific plug, or LPG plug. So the first thing I noticed is that the spark plug gap is actually quite narrow. I think factory's supposed to be 1.1. I've just got a 0.89, so 35 thousandths of an inch feeler gauge. And right now that doesn't even slip through at all, so that plug gap's probably closer to 0.8. So these are the new plugs that I've bought. Straight off the bat, they actually have a little bit of a bigger spark plug gap, so these might actually be correct. So I've got these two feeler gauges here. When I combine those, that will be a fraction below 1.1mm, and then I can check the rest of these plugs. So I've just checked these, and these are actually a 1.1 gap, as stated with the 11. Generally that means they're factory gapped at 1.1mm. So we'll chuck these in, see if it makes much of a difference. So when you're putting the coil cover back on, make sure this gasket's all seated nicely. Also make sure these little rubber plug looking things here are actually all in place. These actually put pressure down on top of the coil and hold them in place when this is all mounted up, so make sure they don't get lost. So first things first, cover that up, just on the off chance you drop one of these into that hole when you're putting this back in, which is almost impossible to do, but just when you think there isn't a way of doing things, you will find a way to do things. So plug that up, also reconnect this PCV valve, reconnect this hose back onto the booster, put that clip back on there as well. And then put all of these back in place. Grab your 5mm Allen key, torque these all down to spec. Lighten up. Alright, so what we're on to next, I'm actually going to be chucking a different airbox into this XT. As you will have seen on some of my videos, I do have a B series XR8, and I have upgraded the air intake on that XR8, so I've actually got the factory airbox assembly, which is down here. That particular airbox, I've actually put one of these into my EL back in the day, and it works reasonably well. It actually has a pod style air filter from factory, and yeah, I just so happen to have this sitting in the garage taking up space. So what I'm looking at doing is chucking this into the XT. This actually has an under the headlight air intake. It doesn't run the snorkel, but we're going to modify it today to take the snorkel, so it'll have two openings, I guess, for the air to get into the airbox. And hopefully it should work on the XT, hopefully give it a little bit more of an induction noise, because at the moment it's pretty much silent. It's a relatively straightforward swap, I would imagine. I've got all the brackets and everything that go with this. I might have to make up something to attach the airbox outlet to the air intake tubing that's currently fitted. So yeah, we'll have a crack at that. We'll chuck that in as well with a brand new Fram Airhog air filter for an extra 2.5 horsepower, because it makes a massive difference. Alright, so what we're going to need to do, remove these two screws, take the snorkel out, and do this hose clamp here to detach that from the top of the airbox. 7mm socket to do that, 8mm socket to remove 1, 2 and 3 bolts down there. That should be the entire airbox assembly that can then be removed. I will then fit up the bracket that this airbox that I want to put in actually needs, which is this thing here. That needs to be mounted into the area where the airbox sits. The XR8 airbox actually slips into position, bolts in place. Then I'll need to figure out what I can do between the current air intake tube and the outlet of this airbox. those who are wondering, that's actually B Series XR6 turbo intake snorkel. It's way bigger than the factory NA XR6s. So I'll undo all these little clips on the side of the airbox. It should just pop straight out. I'll take that air filter out, which I won't need anymore. If you don't actually want to keep it, you can frisbee this. Nah, better not. That should just pop straight off. Maybe, maybe not. It's a little bit hard to do this with one hand, but there we go. So you can put this to one side or frisbee it if you want to. Up to you. Now we can take that 8mm now, and we can remove the lower half of the airbox. So once you've got the bolts out, that should just slip straight out. Just be careful of these little vacuum lines and whatnot. But, there we go. You can frisbee this as well if you want to. Because I care so much about my B Series daily, I'm just gonna get a wet rag and give this a bit of a clean up for absolutely no reason, but you know, got access to it now, you might as well. Look at that, good as new, mate. Well, not quite, but you know, not bad. So we'll now go chuck this bracket in. This bracket basically just sits something like that, I believe. Just judging by that, I think it's supposed to be 2 holes here that I've completely forgotten about. Doesn't matter. We can get that to just sit there, I think, for the time being. Definitely have one mounting bolt down the bottom there though, so we'll make use of that. So I don't want to drill any holes in the inner guard. What I'm going to do is secure this bracket using that bottom mounting hole. The one with that rubber grommet is actually where the airbox locates into it, which I'll show you at a later stage. But what I'm looking at doing is not drilling holes through for these 2 that are in the middle. What I'm actually planning on doing is putting some foam tape on the back side of it, so that'll sit up against the inner guard. I won't have to drill anything. It should sit nice and snug, and then I can locate this airbox into where it needs to fit into, and that should be that all taken care of. Alright, so that's all mounted up. Put the screw in there, tighten that up a little bit, not too much so I can just still pivot it. That foam there is actually just pressing up against the inner guard, and that's no metal or metal contact there, which is really bloody good, and that should just sit in place. Test fit with this now. This is a little bit tricky to do because it's got to slip under the headlight but above that aluminium pipe there, so I might need to use 2 hands for this. So this piece here, this is factory fitted on the BA XR8s. Apparently this is also what the F6 Typhoons run as well, into the factory airbox. So from what I've been told and from what I've read, these are actually a common upgrade. Well, they were a common upgrade for the B series guys back in the day. You can make these fit the standard square airboxes. But they come factory fitted on the pod style airbox that the BA XR8s and GTs runs. So yeah, bit of useless info. Alright, after a little bit of wrestling, that secondary intake is actually in place now. So that slips in that gap just below the headlight. The airbox now just sort of slips in, locates off this little dowel, I guess you could say, clips into the bracket. Now these 2 little mounting holes locate into the 2 little mounting holes on the bracket, and that's pretty much how it sits. So once we've bolted that together, that'll sit all in place. That secondary intake there, I just need to feed that through the airbox and clip that in place. and then we can have a look at where that snorkel over there needs to be positioned. I'll cut a hole on the side of the airbox, and then yeah. Alright, so what I've got here is the main intake snorkel, and I've just stuffed a 3-inch silicone joiner into the outlet of this. So the plan is put this in the car, slide that silicone joiner out till it touches where the airbox would line up with where this would be, mark out a circle around where that would sit up against the airbox, and then we're going to cut it with the hole saw. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we are going to get the hole saw and we're going to drill a hole in this airbox, and hopefully it's in the right spot. Hopefully where I've marked it up is in line close enough to where it needs to be, because I've got this philosophy: measure once, cut once, and if you stuff it up you throw it all out and you go back to what it was originally. So give this a try. So clamped it up in the vise. Today's vise brought to you by Puma, and we're going to send it. And that is how you cut a hole in the airbox. Alright, so airbox is in place. Now should be able to just extend this thing out a bit. We are on. Alright, so last piece of the puzzle, this bit here. So I'm going to use this to connect up to the air intake tube now. So it's just a bit of 3-inch stainless steel, and that will just join between there and there. So yeah, so that's the end of this video. Fresh spark plugs. Seems to have fixed the intermittent mist that I did have. It goes a hell of a lot better than what it did before, so I'm happy. The air intake upgrade is also working pretty well. Can't say for certain how much power it's picked up, if any at all, but it feels a little bit stronger in the revs. Just taking it for a bit of a hoon, so yeah, pretty happy with that. Hasn't changed the sound of anything that much, but yeah, at least it's as free of flowing as possible. Nice easy mod to do as well. If you are looking at doing that, if you can find an XR8 airbox for whatever reason and you want to chuck it in, it is doable as long as you got all the bits and pieces that go with it. It's easier to do in like an hour or so. So yeah, relatively happy with that. So yeah, so that concludes this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully on the next video we'll have a little bit more content coming on the E-Series. Wasn't going to do anything on the XT this weekend, but I thought, well, might as well get it done now while I can. Starting to fall a little bit behind on the maintenance side of things of that car, so with it being a daily, I want to try and keep on top of the maintenance. So, but yeah, until next time, chit chat.